Listen, we all want success. We all want impact. We all want a life filled with meaning, achievement, and fulfillment. But let me ask you this. How do you think the greatest leaders, the top performers, and the history makers got there? They took risks. They stepped into the unknown when everyone else played it safe. They bet on themselves when there were no guarantees. And because of that, they created stories that inspire the world. You see, most people want security, they want comfort, but comfort is the enemy of growth. The moment you decide to avoid risk, you decide to stay the same. And if you're staying the same, you're falling behind. Because the world is always moving forward. Think about the most successful people, athletes, entrepreneurs, innovators. None of them got there by waiting for the right time or hoping everything would be easy. They took action, they faced rejection, they failed, they got back up, and they kept pushing forward. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of success. Every failure gives you data. It shows you what works, what doesn't, and what needs to change. Every mistake is a stepping stone if you're willing to learn from it. And here's the truth. The only way to grow is to do things that make you uncomfortable. If you want confidence, start taking risks. If you want success, start betting on yourself. You can't have a powerful story without taking bold action. The choice is yours. Live a life of safety and regret, or take risks and build a story worth telling. No risk, no story. Now go write yours. Let's start by being honest with ourselves. Everyone experiences fear, and anyone who tells you they don't is either lying or hasn't stepped outside their comfort zone in a long time. Fear is a natural part of being human. It's a primal response that was once meant to protect us from danger. But here's the key truth most people miss. Fear isn't something to avoid. Fear is the gateway to growth. It's a signal, a message that says, you're about to stretch yourself. You're about to grow. When you face fear, you're not facing something you should be running from. You're facing the opportunity to become a better version of yourself. Think about it. Every significant achievement in life, whether it's in your career, relationships, or personal development, required stepping into some form of fear. That fear could be the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, the fear of the unknown, or simply the fear of being vulnerable. But guess what? These fears are there to challenge you. They are the signals that you're on the edge of something greater. We often let fear dictate our decisions. We hold back, we procrastinate, or we make excuses. We convince ourselves that the conditions aren't right. But the truth is, there's never a perfect time to take action. You're always going to feel that knot in your stomach or that voice inside telling you to stay comfortable. And that's exactly why you need to push through it, because growth doesn't live in your comfort zone. Growth only happens when you are willing to confront that fear, acknowledge it, and move through it. Think about some of the greatest achievements in history. Think about the entrepreneurs who risked everything to create something out of nothing, or the athletes who pushed their bodies to the limits. What they had in common wasn't a lack of fear. It was the courage to act in spite of it. They knew that fear wasn't something to run from. They saw it as the key that unlocked new doors of possibility. Every time you step into fear, you make a decision. You decide whether you're going to play small and stay in what's familiar, or whether you're going to rise to the challenge and take a leap into the unknown. And each time you take that leap, you expand your capacity, you stretch yourself, you grow. This isn't about being fearless. That's a myth. No one is fearless. The key is learning how to manage fear and use it as a tool for growth. It's about feeling the fear, but moving forward anyway. And as you begin to do that more and more, you start to realize something amazing. Fear doesn't control you anymore. In fact, it starts to fuel you. The more you face your fear, the more you build resilience. The more you realize that fear doesn't have the power to stop you unless you let it. You've probably heard stories of people who achieved extraordinary things, from groundbreaking innovations to life-changing moments. And you've probably wondered how they did it. The answer is simple. They made fear their ally. They didn't run from it. They didn't avoid it. They leaned into it. They asked themselves, what if I succeed? What if this risk pays off? And most importantly, they knew that the possibility of growth far outweighed the comfort of staying safe. Let's talk about the implications of this in real life. Every time you face fear, you expand your limits. Every time you push through discomfort, you reinforce the belief that you can handle more than you think. This is where true transformation happens, not in the moments when things are easy or predictable, but in the moments when everything feels uncertain, and yet you press on anyway. This doesn't mean you should be reckless or take unnecessary risks. This means understanding that growth often requires stepping into the unknown. It means understanding that if you want to create something meaningful, you're going to have to move past the fear of failure, of judgment, of what ifs. Think about a time in your life when you felt that surge of fear, but you moved forward anyway. Maybe it was taking a new job, starting a business, or having a difficult conversation. How did it feel once you got through it? Chances are you felt a sense of accomplishment, confidence, and empowerment. You realized that fear, instead of being a roadblock, was actually the thing that propelled you to the next level of success. Now, let's flip the perspective. What happens if you continually avoid fear? What happens if you keep waiting for things to feel right before you take action? You stagnate, you become complacent, you miss out on the opportunities that are waiting for you just beyond that fear, and in the end, you end up with a life of regret, wondering what could have been if only you had embraced that fear and taken the risk. So the next time you feel that rush of fear, don't back down, don't shrink, don't hold back, embrace it. It's your invitation to step into something bigger, something greater. Fear is not the enemy, fear is your ally. Fear is your gateway to growth, your sign that you are about to push the boundaries of what you thought was possible. So step into it, embrace it, and watch how it transforms you. Let's face a reality that many people tend to avoid. The world doesn't reward playing it safe. If you look at the people who've had the most profound impact in any field, you'll find one thing in common. They didn't wait for the perfect conditions to take action. They didn't sit on the sidelines hoping things would work out. They took risks. They bet on themselves and they embraced the unknown, knowing that with risk comes incredible opportunity. Risk isn't just about taking big, bold chances. It's about shifting your mindset to understand that without risk, there are no breakthroughs. Think about every significant innovation, every major shift in human history. Those moments didn't come from someone staying in their comfort zone. They came from people who took chances, people who were willing to lose it all in order to win bigger. And it's not just the huge breakthroughs that come from risk. The small daily risks also add up to create opportunities in unexpected ways. Risk, at its core, is about stepping into uncertainty. It's about choosing to move forward, even when you can't predict the outcome. And it's in that uncertainty where opportunity is often found. Most people get stuck in a cycle of waiting. They wait for the right time, the perfect moment, or for things to fall into place. But waiting for ideal conditions is just a form of procrastination. When you wait for everything to be perfect, you miss out on the opportunities that are right in front of you. This fear of imperfection holds many back. But think about the entrepreneurs who started with nothing, no funding, no network, no guarantees of success, and still managed to create world-changing companies. Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Oprah Winfrey. What do they have in common? They all took massive risks. They pushed beyond the limits of what was considered possible, and in doing so, they created opportunities that would have never existed if they'd played it safe. Taking risks is what makes extraordinary success possible. Now, let's break this down a bit further. When you choose to take a risk, it doesn't always mean you're going to win big immediately. In fact, there's a high likelihood that you'll fail at some point. But failure isn't the end of the story. It's part of the process. And it's through those setbacks, through those moments of discomfort and failure, that the real opportunities emerge. The lessons you learn from taking a risk and falling short can be just as valuable, if not more valuable, than the wins. They teach you resilience, they help you adapt, and they sharpen your skills. These are opportunities for personal and professional growth. But here's the key. If you never take the risk in the first place, you'll never know what opportunities you've missed. You'll never see what could have been possible if you had just stepped out of your comfort zone and embraced the unknown. We all know the phrase, no risk, no reward, but let me put it another way, no risk, no opportunity. If you don't take the chance to step forward, you will never be in a position to gain anything, whether it's knowledge, experience, or the ultimate success that lies just beyond the horizon of your comfort zone. Taking risks also opens the door to a different kind of opportunity, the opportunity to reinvent yourself. Every time you take a risk, you're not just changing the outcome of a project or venture, you're also reshaping the person you are. Taking risks forces you to confront your fears, stretch your limits, and become more resilient. It forces you to learn new things, adapt to unexpected challenges, and develop a deeper understanding of who you are and what you're capable of. These opportunities to grow as an individual are just as significant as the material rewards you may gain along the way. Let's look at a more relatable example. Imagine you're in a job you don't love, but you've been too comfortable to leave. You've stayed there because it feels safe and predictable. But what happens if you risk stepping out and pursuing something you're truly passionate about? At first, it might be terrifying, leaving behind the security, the known environment, and the comfort of routine. But in that risk, you open yourself up to the possibility of finding work that excites you, that brings you fulfillment, and that taps into your full potential. Without that risk, you would never know how much better life could be if you had taken the leap. Taking risks also leads to more opportunities through networking and connections. When you take bold steps, you draw attention. People notice you. And in today's world, relationships are often the key to success. Whether it's a mentor who offers guidance, a partner who shares your vision, or an investor who believes in your idea, the people you meet along the way can open doors you never even imagined. Risking stepping into new situations and environments exposes you to these kinds of opportunities. However, let's not overlook the fact that risk isn't always about big life-altering decisions. Sometimes it's about taking those small but consistent risks that add up over time. Whether it's striking up a conversation with someone new, presenting a new idea in a meeting, or asking for a raise, you're taking a small risk each time. And those risks compound, creating new opportunities for growth, visibility, and career advancement. The bottom line is this: if you want to create opportunities in your life, you need to be willing to take risks. Opportunities don't just fall into your lap. They come when you step into uncertainty, act with courage, and push yourself past the fear of failure. Risk is the essential ingredient that transforms dreams into reality. Without it, your potential remains untapped. Failure is one of the most misunderstood and feared aspects of the human experience. Many people see failure as the ultimate end, a sign that they weren't good enough, smart enough, or capable enough to succeed. But what if we've been looking at failure all wrong? What if failure isn't something to avoid or be ashamed of, but rather a critical part of the learning process? When you fail, you are not failing in the traditional sense. You are learning. You are getting valuable feedback about what works and what doesn't. And feedback, when understood properly, is one of the most powerful tools you can have on your journey to success. Every time you take a step forward, whether it's a success or a setback, you are gathering data that will refine your approach, sharpen your strategy, and ultimately lead you to greater success. Think about the most successful people in the world. Think about the entrepreneurs, the artists, the innovators. If you look closely at their journeys, you will see that they didn't have straight paths to success. They encountered roadblocks, they faced rejection, and they failed multiple times along the way. But what set them apart was their ability to see failure for what it really is: feedback. They didn't let their failures define them. Instead, they used them as stepping stones. They understood that failure is not a reflection of your worth or ability. It's simply an indication that there's something you can learn, something you can improve. For example, take Thomas Edison, the man who invented the light bulb. We all know the story about how he failed thousands of times before finally creating a working light bulb. But what we don't often hear is that he didn't view those failures as obstacles to success. He viewed them as experiments. Each failure taught him something new about the materials, the process, and the technology. He didn't stop until he found the right combination, and ultimately his failures were the very foundation of the revolutionary invention that changed the world. Edison famously said, "I have not failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This mindset shift is essential. When you fail, you don't have to be discouraged. You have the opportunity to pause, assess, and figure out what needs to change. You have the chance to refine your plan, adjust your methods, and approach the problem from a different angle. Failure is your best feedback tool, but only if you're willing to listen to it and learn from it. Think about your own experiences with failure. Maybe you've tried something and it didn't go as planned. Maybe it was a business venture that didn't succeed, or a personal goal that you couldn't achieve. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that those failures mean you aren't capable of success. But the truth is, every setback you experience provides you with a lesson. It's telling you where to improve, what to change, and how to grow. And these lessons are invaluable. Without them, you would be operating in the dark, without any guidance on what works and what doesn't. One of the biggest mistakes people make when facing failure is that they take it personally. They internalize it and see it as a sign that they aren't good enough. But what you need to understand is that failure is not an attack on your character or abilities. It's simply a reflection of the process you're going through. Every time you try something new or different, the odds of failure increase, but so do the odds of growth. The key is not to let failure knock you down or keep you from trying again. You must shift your perspective and see it for what it really is, a crucial part of your journey. In many cases, failure teaches us things we wouldn't learn otherwise. It forces us to innovate, to think outside the box, and to try things we wouldn't have considered if we had stayed on the safe path. This is why some of the most successful people are those who have experienced the most failure. They are not afraid of it. They welcome it because they know that it is through these failures that they become stronger, smarter, and more capable. One important point to remember is that failure is not final. Just because something doesn't work today doesn't mean it can't work tomorrow. If you've failed, you've learned something. The only true failure comes from quitting. So long as you keep trying, you are still in the game, still moving forward and still gaining more insight. The moment you stop is the moment you give up on growth, on learning, and on progress. What this means for you is that failure isn't something to fear, it's something to embrace. It's your opportunity to get better, to refine your approach, and to get closer to the success you're seeking. Every time you fail, you are one step closer to getting it right. And when you finally do succeed, it will feel all the sweeter because you know that your success wasn't handed to you, it was earned through the lessons you learned, the perseverance you showed, and the ability to turn failure into feedback that propelled you forward. So the next time you fail, remember, you are not failing at all. You are learning. You are gathering feedback that will make you stronger, smarter, and more capable of achieving your goals. And with every failure, you are one step closer to your ultimate success. Courage is often seen as something that only the bravest individuals possess. We think of courage as a rare, innate quality that some people have and others don't. But in reality, courage isn't something you're born with. It's something you develop. It's a muscle, one that gets stronger every time you use it. Just like any other muscle in your body, courage needs to be exercised to grow. And the more you push yourself to act in the face of fear, the stronger your courage becomes. Many people wait for the perfect moment to act. They wait for the fear to disappear, for the circumstances to align just right, or for some external validation that they're making the right choice. But what happens when you wait for courage to magically appear is that you never give yourself the chance to build it. Courage doesn't come from waiting for the fear to go away. It comes from taking action despite the fear. The truth is, the more you act in the face of fear, the more courageous you become. Think about the first time you did something that scared you. Maybe it was giving a presentation, starting a new job, or making an important decision that could change the course of your life. In the beginning, you probably felt anxious, uncertain, and scared, but as you took the steps, even though you were terrified, something remarkable happened. You made it through. You survived. And not only did you survive, but you grew stronger. You learned something about yourself. You realized that you were capable of handling challenges that once felt overwhelming. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the willingness to act despite the fear. Every time you face a fear, you stretch your courage muscle. It's like lifting weights at the gym. The more weight you lift, the stronger your muscles become. But if you never pick up the weights, they won't grow. Similarly, if you avoid challenging situations that require courage, your ability to act in the face of fear will remain weak. As you continue to take action, you'll notice that your courage starts to grow exponentially. What once seemed impossible or terrifying begins to feel manageable. The idea of stepping into uncertainty starts to feel less daunting. And the things that once held you back no longer have the power to paralyze you. You begin to trust yourself. You trust that you can handle whatever comes your way. This is the power of courage. It transforms you. It shifts you from a place of self-doubt to a place of self-assurance. And it's not a one-time transformation. It's a continuous process of becoming stronger, braver, and more capable. But courage doesn't just show up in the big, life-changing moments. It shows up in the smaller moments too. Every time you choose to speak up in a meeting, take a new route, or try something new, you're exercising your courage. You're building the muscle that will serve you when the bigger challenges arrive. Over time, you'll find that even the things that once scared you will no longer hold the same power. The muscle of courage will have grown so strong that you can approach each new challenge with a sense of calm, knowing that you've faced your fears before and you can do it again. The key is consistency. Just as you can't expect to get fit by working out once or twice, you can't expect to develop courage by taking one courageous action. Courage grows by consistently facing fear. It's a series of small, incremental actions that build up to create a strong foundation. When you commit to showing up and taking action every day, no matter how small, you are building that courage muscle every time. It's important to understand that courage doesn't guarantee success, but it guarantees growth. Courage opens doors. It forces you to confront your limitations and break through them. When you act with courage, you create space for new possibilities. Even when things don't go as planned, you've still made progress. You've learned something, you've become more resilient, and you've expanded your comfort zone. Imagine for a moment a life where you act boldly, consistently, and with confidence. You face challenges head on, knowing that you've developed the ability to handle whatever comes your way. You start to realize that fear doesn't control you. It's simply a signal to rise up, act, and grow. That's the power of courage, and that's the life that's available to you when you start treating courage as the muscle that it is. The truth is, you'll never know what you're truly capable of until you develop the courage to take that first step and then the next. Every courageous act you make is a step toward becoming the person you were meant to be. And the more you act with courage, the more you will realize that your potential is limitless. You are stronger than you think, and courage is the key that unlocks that strength. The more you use it, the more unstoppable you become. Courage is not just for the extraordinary few, it's a muscle we all have and we all can develop. Each and every one of us has a story to tell, a unique narrative shaped by the choices we make, the risks we take, and the paths we decide to follow. But here's the hard truth. Your story isn't created by the circumstances around you, the environment you're in, or even the opportunities that come your way. Your story is created by your choices. The decisions you make each day, no matter how small they may seem, are the threads that weave the fabric of your life. And ultimately, it's the story of your life that will define you. Not your background, your failures, or the obstacles you face, but the choices you decide to make in response to them. Think about the people who inspire you most. What makes their stories stand out? They aren't necessarily more talented or fortunate than you. What they have is the ability to make bold choices. They took risks when everyone told them to play it safe. They chose to keep going when things got tough, even when the odds were stacked against them. They didn't let fear, doubt, or uncertainty hold them back. Instead, they made decisions that ultimately led to the incredible stories we admire today. And the key takeaway here is that their choices led to their success, and your choices will do the same for you. Many people wait for a moment of inspiration or for things to line up perfectly before they take action. But action is what creates the story. The people you look up to didn't wait for everything to fall into place. They decided to take that first step even when they weren't sure where it would lead. They made choices to act in the face of uncertainty, to trust their instincts, and to keep moving forward despite the fears and doubts that inevitably arise. This is where the power of choice comes in. Every day you are presented with countless opportunities to make decisions that shape your life. And each of those choices, no matter how trivial they might seem at the time, becomes a part of your personal narrative. Your choices define your character, your direction, and your ultimate legacy. So ask yourself, what story do you want to tell? Is it a story of comfort and safety, where nothing ever changes? Or is it a story of courage and transformation, where you face challenges head on and take ownership of your destiny? The beauty of this is that you don't need to wait for a dramatic turning point to start making your story your own. It's the small choices you make every day that accumulate into something far greater. You choose to speak up in a meeting when you would have stayed quiet. You choose to pursue that passion project even though it's outside of your comfort zone. You choose to get back up after a setback instead of giving up. Each of these decisions adds a new chapter to your life, and over time they create a narrative that defines who you are and who you become. One of the most significant parts of making choices is recognizing that you are the author of your own story. Life doesn't happen to you, it happens because of you. The moment you realize this, you take full ownership of your future. You stop being a passive observer, waiting for things to change. Instead, you become an active participant, creating the story that you want to tell. The stories that inspire us all are those of individuals who took control of their destiny and made the hard, bold choices that pushed them to where they are today. Here's the thing about stories. They are rarely linear. No one's path to success is straight. There are always obstacles, twists, turns, and moments of doubt. But the most powerful stories are those that embrace the ups and downs. The people whose journeys resonate are those who chose to persevere through the challenges. They chose to keep going when everyone else might have quit. And in doing so, they created a story that would inspire generations to come. If you want your story to be worth telling, you have to be willing to face the hard moments head on and continue to make choices that move you forward. Your story isn't something that happens to you, it's something you create with every decision. And the most remarkable part of this is that you don't need to have everything figured out from the start. You don't need to know exactly how everything will turn out. The key is to simply keep moving forward, making the best choices you can with the information you have at the time. Even when you stumble or fall, those missteps are part of the story too. They're part of what makes you human, and they often lead to the greatest lessons and breakthroughs. So ask yourself, what story do you want to tell at the end of your life? Do you want a story of someone who played it safe, who stayed comfortable, and who never really stretched beyond their limits? Or do you want to tell a story of someone who faced adversity, took risks, and created a life of meaning and impact? The choice is yours. Every choice you make today is a step in the direction of the story you want to tell. In the end, life is not about what happens to you. It's about how you choose to respond to it. And as you continue to make bold, courageous decisions, you will craft a story that not only defines you, but also inspires others to make choices of their own. Because the most powerful stories are those that empower others to take control of their own lives and create their own meaningful journeys. So go ahead, take charge of your story, one decision at a time.